Welcome to Lashback, everyone. I'm Natalyan.
And I'm Phoebe, and today we're going to be exploring fear, rational, irrational. Take us away, Nat.
Yeah, so this is something that I wanted to talk about because I have a few, and I just did my usual, Google search or Microsoft Bing Copilot, whatever you want to call it, and they're put into kind of two categories when I'm looking at it, and even when talking to people, rational and irrational. An example of that, according to the research, is rational is when it presents a real danger. So if, for example, you're standing on a ledge and you could fall, so you have a fear of heights, that's rational. Irrational could be, for example, a fear of balloons.
Oh yeah, it's got a name, that, hasn't it?
It has, I don't know what it is. There's a few ones like that, isn't there? Like a fear of,
Buttons is another one.
yeah, yeah. So do you have any?
Of course not. I'm a very rational person. Thank you very much. Although, don't like seaweed in the sea. If the seaweed comes around my ankle in the sea, I overreact.
I think that's
I'm not
rational.
gonna lie.
I think that's
I'm not gonna
rational.
lie.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I have a fear, and we mentioned it in one of our
But it's not,
episodes to
because
do
it's
with.
seaweed. I mean, it's like what sea?
Yeah, but
But it's
I still think that's rational because you've got something touching you. You're like, ugh.
horrid.
It is horrid.
How
And
about you?
I have a key one, and I was just about to say that we've sort of referenced it in one of our performing episodes to do with why I might have a fear of it. But I have a massive fear of stairs and falling down them.
Oh, I think that's rational. Have you ever
Yeah.
fallen downstairs before?
No, it's only
Well,
falling up.
because you've got a fear of it, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, I used to go to this when I lived in Melbourne, Australia. One of their kind of arenas for concerts used to have massive stairs, going down in between the chairs, no rails. And as the night goes on, it's dark, people are spilling drinks, and people got heels on. I'm like, how is no one dead? And I used to hold my, my nature calls things. So needing to go to the bathroom, I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not
Now
going
you've got,
because
and now you've got an irrational fear of not being able to find a loo when you're traveling.
thank you. I know that's is that irrational or rational?
I don't know, how irrational do you get about it?
I think you know the answer to that. I do. So for the listeners out there, I'm giving a little bit too much away here. I do think that there being a toilet controls my life sometimes because in England you can't just find a toilet in like a clothes
Restroom.
store. Restaurant you can, but they're like you have to eat, or a
Well, a
gas
restroom.
station. Yeah, restroom. But a gas station or petrol station, as we call it, don't generally have public toilets, whereas they do in America. You can always find a toilet in America. But do you remember that night we were in Camden after a gig and I was dying to go and nowhere would let me go? I don't know if you remember that. It's traumatized me.
It is horrible having to hold it. Globophobia is a fear of balloons.
What's it called?
Globophobia.
That is weird. Why would you have a fear of balloons? Is it the texture?
Or the popping
Popping, the
sound.
popping. Yeah, maybe that's not rational then. Clowns. That's one that kept coming up. Is it because of the movie?
Or it's just a bit weird, isn't it? Some dude with a wig
Dressing up.
on and makeup. Not to belittle clowning, because I think actually some of it's really cool around, physical performance and vulnerability and all. Clowning is a cool skill, but at the same time, bit creepy.
Do you know the other thing? The other thing I unrelated to research on this episode, I can't remember where I heard this, it was in a show, that clowns are a good example of hiding your sadness because they put on a smile no matter what. So it could relate to that as well.
Yeah,
The like,
indeed. Yeah, yeah. Like, just
disturbing.
am I supposed to find this funny? Maybe
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
don't.
I wonder how many clowns actually go to kids' parties still. because that was a 80s, 90s thing, or maybe an 70s, 80s thing. I don't think it's
I
as
think
big
that still
anymore.
happens.
Do you think so?
I mean, it's buried in, risk assessments and forms these days. Planning's still a thing.
Maybe we should do a clown episode and bring on a clown.
I actually know a few people that have done clowning courses and have talked
Wow.
about it as, an experience that opens them up into themselves, that they've had this amazing kind of actualization sort of journey because of, you don't have words, you have to tell stories with your entire body. I'm open to, maybe we should get somebody on to talk about clowning as a thing.
I think that would be a great episode. Are you scared of clowns?
I'd say I'm impartial. I was never a clown fan. But also, not scared of them.
Yeah, I think it's
That
the concept.
Stephen King, the movie It, is scary.
I think that has definitely added to that fear. Stephen
Yeah.
King's definitely responsible for this, I think.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So what rational fears have you got? Or irrational fears?
I don't know. I'm struggling with the categorization of rational and irrational because I have a massive fear of being late. And I'm not sure if the word fear is correct, but I get like anxiety about it, even when I've got plenty of time. And I tend to, like I was telling you, I'm flying to the UK soonish. And I do a lot anyway. And if my flight, you get there 3 hours before, but I leave loads of time. And because I've already planned that amount of time, I then start thinking that I'm late, but I've already allowed for that time by getting there 3 hours early. So it doesn't matter if it's 30 minutes later. So it ends up being 4 hours before, and it's like, that's just ridiculous. So I just have this fear of, I'm
What
so
could go
prepared.
wrong if you're really late?
Well, exactly. I do think that to myself. The worst case scenario is you miss your flight. It's not actually the end of the world. It'd be a bit of a nightmare, but
Did
or
you
a
just get
meeting.
told off a lot for being late for school?
Yeah,
or whatever?
that's probably what it is. Because I was always late for school. Even if I tried to be early, something would happen with the bus.
Yeah, I'm late for everything. I've got a friend who says this about herself, and I've taken it on. She goes, I'm going to be late due to who I am as a person.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I've really, really worked on that. I'm a very reliable human now. And as you know, if I am going to be late, I always let people know. That's the only thing I ask.
I mean, that's the thing to do. Although, now that you can text on the go,
You
I
couldn't.
mean, when at school, once you were late, you were late. You couldn't let anyone know until you got there. So
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of anticipation of what's it going to be like when I turn up late. Rather than, okay, they know I'm going to be 10 minutes late. Chill out.
Yeah, I think this relates to childhood trauma of being late for school assembly and just being in trouble.
You were talking about that the other day, running in, falling over. Yeah.
So I think this is all the stairs thing, getting up to sing when I was a kid and tripping and being late for school all the time. I think that's probably where all of this comes from. But I'm so organised with things. For meetings, I'm always early. But then I'm like, oh, maybe I should be
Question.
earlier.
Here's a question to change the subject slightly. Is stage fright a rational or irrational fear?
That's funny, isn't it? Because again, it's hard. I'd say irrational to some degree and rational to some degree.
Some
Rational
people
is,
are adamant they will not get on. And I'm like, you're being
Yeah.
irrational.
yeah, I think the rational, that's why I say both, because the rational bit is, being laughed at maybe, insecurities, doing
Being
it wrong.
prepared.
Yeah. Well, there was something I read when I was doing this research about rational, this is it, rational fear of something like that, an exam, a performance, is when you're unprepared. So it's rational
Yeah.
because you're not prepared. It's irrational if you're prepared.
Yeah,
I like that.
exactly.
I like that. But it links to emotional and physical effects and health, like emotional health, mental health, physical health. your fears. So, you should have some kind of therapy if it's really serious.
There's a great book by Elizabeth Gilbert who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
I love
wrote
that.
a book after that called Big Magic. And she talks about fear. You need your fear. We do need our fear. Like you were saying, so we don't fall off caves and get eaten by bears and things. We need our fear. You should never let it drive. So it sits in the backseat, and it's not allowed to put anything on the radio. But as you go on the road trip through life, you need to have your fear.
Otherwise,
So
you're going to be
put it on the
dangerous.
back
You're
seat.
completely.
Yeah, put it on the backseat. Don't give it a voice. But no.
Yeah, I like that.
Good that it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the way that I kind of.
That better actually. But
Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. And I think the preparation, so like being on a serious note about my two silly little fears or whatever, is that, when I go to concerts with stairs and that, I mean, I'm wearing trainers, sneakers. I'm not wearing.
I have an irrational fear of wearing heels just because I'm going to sprain my ankle. I literally hate wearing heels because every step I'm fearful of falling.
I think that's rational. Because you would fall.
I've seen, and sometimes some people, like the heels that they wear, I'm fearful
For
as
them.
I'm watching them. Yeah.
That's irrational.
Okay, yeah.
Because if I wore heels,
Right.
it is beyond irrational because I know I'm going down. I'm down. There's 100% guarantee I'm going down.
Actually going to be taking a spill if I try that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But being late, I overcome that by being prepared. But then being over prepared goes into the irrational and unhealthy.
Totally. Yeah, like because you're not trusting yourself to be on it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a need there, an extra need for
exactly.
control or something. Because if we're fearful, we have to be in charge of it, don't we?
Well, here's what it said also when we did this research is that so there's rational fears and irrational fears, but there's a purpose. And the purpose is rational fears have a useful purpose. Like you said, we have to have some, otherwise if you're completely fearless, you're probably going to die.
Put your finger in the electric socket or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so, rational fears have a useful purpose, helping individuals respond appropriately to danger, while irrational fears can lead to anxiety and avoidance behaviours that interfere with daily life. That's it. Nailed it.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Right. Well, I think it would be great if people wanted to comment about their irrational fears and what makes a fear rational or irrational, in what context.
Yeah.
And how would one get over a rational fear? If
Or have.
Or have you? Yeah, have you? Maybe we should do that next. How to get over irrational fears.
Absolutely.
But it's time for this week to say goodbye, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.